The day started like any other on Earth. People went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. High above the planet, hidden from view, a massive alien fleet appeared out of nowhere. Their ships were huge, dark, and shaped like arrowheads. They moved silently, getting into position around the Earth. In New York City, Sarah was walking to work. She looked up at the clear blue sky and smiled. It was a beautiful day. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. She checked it and saw a strange message. Emergency alert, unknown objects in sky. Seek shelter immediately. Sarah looked up again, confused. That's when she saw a giant shadow falling over the city. Her mouth fell open in shock. The alien mothership was so big it blocked out the sun. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. People on the streets stopped and stared. Cars screeched to a halt. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then panic set in. People started running and screaming. Sarah stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes. Similar scenes played out in cities all over the world. In Tokyo, students pointed at the sky during their lunch break, their eyes wide with fear. In Rio de Janeiro, beachgoers ran from the water, leaving their belongings behind. In Moscow, people abandoned their cars in the middle of the road, causing massive traffic jams. World leaders scrambled to respond. They had no warning, no time to prepare. Military bases around the globe went on high alert. Fighter jets took off, ready to defend against the unknown threat. But as they approached the alien ships, their controls went dead. The jets fell from the sky like stones. On the alien mothership, Commander Zix stood tall and proud. He was from a warrior race, bred for conquest. Earth was just another planet to add to their empire. He looked at the blue and green world below with cold, calculating eyes. "Begin the attack," Zix ordered, his voice deep and emotionless. At his command, smaller ships poured out of the mothership. They descended on Earth's cities like a swarm of angry bees. Beams of energy shot from the ships, destroying buildings and landmarks. The Eiffel Tower in Paris crumbled. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco collapsed into the bay. The pyramids in Egypt were reduced to rubble. Back in New York, Sarah ran for her life. All around her, chaos reigned. People pushed and shoved, trying to find safety. A nearby building exploded, showering the street with glass and concrete. Sarah ducked into a subway station, joining a crowd of terrified people seeking shelter underground. In Washington, D.C., the president was rushed to a secure bunker. Advisors shouted updates and suggestions, but nobody knew what to do. "How do you fight an enemy so advanced, so powerful?" "Mr. President," a general said, his face pale, "our weapons are useless against them. Nuclear missiles won't even launch. It's like they've turned off our ability to fight back." The president put his head in his hands. "Is there any way to communicate with them?" he asked. Before anyone could answer, every screen in the bunker flickered to life. Commander Zix's face appeared, his alien features strange and threatening to human eyes. "People of Earth," Zix said, his words somehow translated into every language. "Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is futile. Surrender now, or we will unleash a force beyond your imagination." The message played on every TV, computer, and phone around the world. Humanity received its first official alien communication, and it was an ultimatum. In a small town in the Midwest, far from the chaos of the big cities, Jake turned off his TV. He looked at his golden retriever, Max, who wagged his tail, oblivious to the world-changing events. "What do you think, buddy?" Jake asked. "Should we be worried?" Max just tilted his head and let out a soft woof. Jake smiled and patted Max's head. "Yeah, you're right. No point in panicking. We'll figure this out." Little did Jake know that he and Max would soon play a crucial role in Earth's fate. Back on the mothership, Commander Zix received reports from his invasion forces. Things were going exactly as planned. Earth's militaries were in disarray, unable to mount any significant defense. Major cities were under alien control. Pockets of human resistance were being quickly subdued. "Excellent," Zix said. "Prepare to release ground troops. It's time to show these humans true fear." As night fell on the first day of the invasion, Earth was a changed planet. Smoke rose from ruined cities. Millions of people were displaced, fleeing their homes in search of safety. Governments struggled to maintain order and provide basic services. In New York, Sarah emerged from the subway with a group of survivors. The city she knew was gone, replaced by a hellish landscape of destruction. Alien ships patrolled the skies, their lights piercing the darkness. "What do we do now?" someone in the group asked. Sarah took a deep breath. "We survive," she said, "and we hope that someone, somewhere, finds a way to stop this." As the night wore on, humanity faced its darkest hour. The aliens seemed unstoppable, their technology far beyond anything Earth could muster. But in the face of this overwhelming threat, people began to come together. Strangers helped each other. Communities organized to share resources and information. And in a small Midwest town, a man and his dog slept peacefully, unaware that they held the key to humanity's survival. The aliens had brought their ultimate weapon, their beast, to strike fear into human hearts. But they were about to learn that on Earth, some of the smallest creatures could have the biggest impact. The stage was set for an unlikely confrontation. Humanity's fate hung in the balance, and as a new day dawned, the real battle was about to begin. As the world reeled from the alien invasion, life in the small Midwest town of Millbrook seemed almost untouched. Jake Miller woke up to the sound of his alarm just like any other day. He stretched, yawned, and looked down at Max, his golden retriever, who was already wagging his tail excitedly. "Morning, buddy," Jake said, patting Max's head. "Ready for another day?" Jake went through his morning routine, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety in his stomach. He turned on the TV while making coffee, hoping for good news. Instead, he saw more scenes of destruction and chaos from around the world. "Well, Max," Jake sighed, "looks like we're still in trouble." Max tilted his head and let out a soft whine, as if he understood the gravity of the situation. Jake was a simple man with a not-so-simple job. He was a professional dog trainer, known in the area for his ability to work with even the most difficult dogs. His methods were based on understanding and patience, not force or fear. This skill would soon prove more valuable than he could ever imagine. As Jake and Max stepped outside for their morning walk, they noticed something different in the air. It was quieter than usual, with fewer cars on the road and almost no one on the streets. The distant hum of alien ships could be heard, a constant reminder of the new reality. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the town. Jake and Max turned to see a plume of smoke rising from the direction of the town center. Without hesitation, Jake started running towards the commotion, Max right by his side. As they reached Main Street, they saw the source of the explosion. An alien ship, smaller than the ones they'd seen on TV but still impressive, had landed in the middle of the road. Alien soldiers, tall and intimidating in their sleek armor, were emerging from the ship. People were running and screaming, trying to get away. But Jake noticed something that made his blood run cold. A young girl, no more than 7 or 8, was frozen in fear right in the path of the approaching aliens. Without thinking, Jake sprinted towards the girl. "Max, stay!" he commanded. For once, Max didn't listen. The loyal dog ran alongside his master, determined to help. Jake reached the girl just as one of the alien soldiers raised its weapon. Time seemed to slow down. Jake grabbed the girl and turned his back to the alien, shielding her with his body. He closed his eyes, expecting the worst. But the blast never came. Jake turned around slowly to see Max standing between them and the alien, his tail wagging slowly. The alien soldier looked confused, its weapon lowered slightly. Jake's mind raced. He knew he had only one chance. Using all his experience as a dog trainer, he decided to treat the alien like he would a scared, aggressive dog. "Hey there," Jake said softly, keeping his voice calm and steady. "It's okay. We're not a threat. See? We're friendly." The alien tilted its head much like Max did when he was confused. It made a series of clicks and whistles, probably trying to communicate. Jake slowly stood up, keeping the girl behind him. "That's right. Nice and easy. No one needs to get hurt here." To everyone's surprise, Max approached the alien, his tail still wagging. The alien soldier took a step back, unsure how to react to this small, furry creature showing no fear. Jake saw an opportunity. "Max, sit," he commanded. Max obeyed instantly, looking up at the alien with his big, friendly eyes. The alien lowered its weapon completely, fascinated by this display of obedience and trust between two different species. Jake's heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "Good boy, Max. Now shake." Max raised his paw towards the alien. The alien soldier, acting on some universal instinct, reached out and touched Max's paw. A collective gasp went through the crowd of humans who had stopped to watch this incredible scene. For a moment, everything was still. Then, more alien soldiers approached, chattering in their strange language. They seemed to be arguing, gesturing at Jake, Max, and the girl. Jake knew he had to act fast. "Max down," he said. Max lay down, looking as non-threatening as possible. Jake slowly sat down, too, encouraging the little girl to do the same. "See," Jake said to the aliens, "we can all be calm. We can understand each other." The aliens conferred among themselves. Then, to Jake's shock, they started to lower their weapons. One of them, seemingly the leader, stepped forward and made a gesture that looked almost like a bow. Jake stood up slowly, helping the little girl to her feet. "Thank you," he said to the alien leader, hoping his tone conveyed his meaning. The alien leader pointed at Max, then at Jake, then made a sweeping gesture that seemed to include the whole town. Jake understood. They wanted to see more. "Would you like to meet more of our, friends?" he asked. The alien nodded, or at least made a motion that Jake interpreted as a nod. Word spread quickly through the town. People started emerging from their homes, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. They brought their pets, dogs, cats, even a couple of horses from a nearby farm. Jake found himself in the incredible position of mediator between humans, animals, and aliens. He demonstrated simple commands with different animals, showing the aliens how humans and animals work together. The aliens were fascinated. They had never seen anything like this before. In their world, other species were either threats to be eliminated or resources to be used. The idea of cooperation and companionship between different species was entirely new to them. As the day wore on, something remarkable happened. The tension in the air began to dissipate. Aliens and humans started attempting to communicate, with animals often serving as a bridge between them. By sunset, the scene in Millbrook was unlike anything happening anywhere else on the invaded Earth. Aliens sat on the ground, petting dogs and cats. Children cautiously offered treats to both pets and aliens. Jake found himself demonstrating advanced training techniques to a group of alien soldiers who watched with rapt attention. As night fell, Jake sat on his porch, Max by his side. He could hardly believe what had happened. Somehow, his simple skills as a dog trainer had created a connection between humans and aliens that all the world's weapons and technology couldn't achieve. "You know, Max," Jake said, scratching behind his dog's ears, "I think we might have just changed everything." Max wagged his tail and let out a happy bark, as if to say he knew it all along. Little did Jake know, news of this unexpected encounter was already making its way up the alien chain of command, all the way to Commander Zix himself. The story of a man, a dog, and a small town that greeted aliens not with weapons but with wagging tails was about to turn the entire invasion on its head. The news of the unusual events in Millbrook spread quickly through the alien ranks. It eventually reached Commander Zix, who was overseeing the global invasion from his command ship high above Earth. His reaction was a mixture of disbelief and anger. "Impossible!" Zix roared, his alien features contorting in rage. "How can these primitive beings be resisting us with pets?" He turned to his second-in-command. "Officer Vex, prepare my personal transport. We're going to see this for ourselves." As Zix's ship descended towards Millbrook, Jake was blissfully unaware of the approaching storm. He was in the town square, which had become an impromptu cultural exchange center. Humans and aliens mingled, with pets serving as unlikely diplomats. Jake was demonstrating to a group of fascinated aliens how to teach a dog to roll over when a shadow fell over the gathering. Everyone looked up to see a massive ship, far larger and more intimidating than the ones they'd seen before. The ship landed with a thunderous boom, kicking up dust and causing the ground to shake. As the dust settled, a ramp extended from the ship and out walked Commander Zix, flanked by heavily armed guards. Zix was an imposing figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall with a body that seemed to be made of shifting metal and sinew. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as he surveyed the scene before him. The aliens who had been peacefully interacting with the humans snapped to attention, clearly terrified of their leader. The humans, sensing the shift in atmosphere, began to back away. Pets whined and cowered behind their owners. Jake stood his ground, Max loyally by his side. He could feel the weight of the moment. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of not just Millbrook, but possibly the entire planet. Commander Zix's gaze locked onto Jake. "You," he said, his voice a low, menacing growl. "You are the one responsible for this?" "Aberration?" Jake swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. "If by aberration you mean peace, then yes, I suppose I am." Zix's eyes narrowed. "Peace? We came here for conquest, not peace. Your planet's resources belong to us now." "With all due respect," Jake said, surprising himself with his boldness, "I don't think that's going to work out for you. We're not as primitive as you might think." Zix let out a sound that might have been a laugh, but it was cold and humorless. "You think your furry companions can stand against the might of our empire? Perhaps it's time we showed you what real power looks like." The commander turned to his guards. "Bring out the beast." A hush fell over the crowd. Even the alien soldiers looked nervous. The back of Zix's ship opened, and something began to emerge. It was huge, easily the size of a small house. Its body was covered in scales that shifted colors like oil on water. Multiple limbs, each ending in wicked claws, propelled it forward. Its head was a nightmare of teeth and glowing eyes. People screamed and began to run. Even some of the alien soldiers took a step back. But Jake stood firm, his hand resting on Max's head. Zix's voice boomed out. "This is the apex predator of our home world. We've used it to subdue countless planets. Now you'll see why resistance is futile." The beast let out a roar that shook windows and set off car alarms throughout the town. It fixed its gaze on Jake and Max, clearly identifying them as the primary threat. Jake's mind raced. He knew he couldn't outrun the creature, and fighting it was out of the question. He had only one option, the same one that had worked before. He had to treat this terrifying alien monster the same way he'd treat a scared, aggressive dog. As the beast lumbered towards them, Jake took a deep breath and did something that made everyone, human and alien alike, gasp in shock. He sat down on the ground, cross-legged, and gently urged Max to do the same. "It's okay," Jake said softly, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. "You're okay. No one's going to hurt you." The beast hesitated, clearly confused by this reaction. It had expected its prey to run or fight, not sit calmly in its path. Jake continued to speak in a soothing tone. "That's right. Nice and easy. You're not so scary, are you? Just big and lonely, I bet." To everyone's amazement, the beast's aggressive posture began to soften. Its color-shifting scales settled into a softer, almost pastel hue. Seizing the moment, Jake slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a dog treat. He always carried them for Max. "Would you like a snack?" he asked the beast, holding out the treat. The beast sniffed the air, then ever so slowly, it lowered its massive head towards Jake's outstretched hand. With a gentleness that belied its fearsome appearance, it took the treat from Jake's palm. A collective gasp went up from the crowd. Commander Zix's jaw dropped in disbelief. Jake smiled and reached up to pat the beast's snout. "Good boy," he said. "Or girl, or whatever you are." The beast made a sound that was halfway between a purr and a rumble. It lay down next to Jake, much like an oversized dog might. Max, not to be outdone, walked up to the beast and gave it a friendly sniff. To everyone's surprise, the beast sniffed back, and soon the two were engaged in what looked like a playful interaction. Jake stood up slowly and turned to face Commander Zix. "You see," he said, his voice firm but kind, "on Earth, we've learned that friendship is stronger than fear. Love is more powerful than intimidation. Your beast isn't a weapon. It's a living being capable of connection and companionship." Zix stared at the scene before him, his worldview visibly shaken. But how? We've used the beast to conquer worlds. How can you just befriend it?" Jake shrugged. "It's what we do here on Earth. We connect. We understand. We love. That's our real strength." As if to emphasize Jake's point, Several children, emboldened by what they'd seen, cautiously approached the beast. Soon, they were petting its scales and giggling as it made purring sounds. Commander Zix looked from the beast to the children, to the aliens and humans standing side by side, and finally to Jake and Max. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien leader looked uncertain. "Perhaps," Zix said slowly, "we have much to learn from your world." Jake nodded. "And we have much to learn from you, but we can do it as friends, not as conquerors and conquered." As the sun began to set on this extraordinary day, humans and aliens alike watched in awe as Max, the golden retriever, played fetch with the fearsome beast, using a tree trunk as a stick. The confrontation had ended not with violence, but with understanding. And as night fell on Millbrook, the first seeds of a new, interstellar friendship began to take root. The dawn broke over Millbrook, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. But this sunrise was unlike any other in Earth's history. Alien ships hovered alongside fluffy clouds, their metallic surfaces reflecting the morning light. On the ground, humans and aliens worked side by side, clearing debris and rebuilding damaged structures. At the center of it all was Jake, with Max faithfully by his side. They had become overnight celebrities, not just in Millbrook, but across the globe. News of their incredible encounter with the beast had spread like wildfire, giving hope to a world that had been on the brink of destruction. Jake was in the middle of explaining the concept of fetch to a group of alien soldiers when a commotion near the town hall caught everyone's attention. Commander Zix was approaching, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "Jake!" Zix called out, his voice carrying a note of urgency. "We need to talk." Jake nodded, patting Max reassuringly before walking over to meet the alien commander. "What's going on?" he asked. Zix looked around nervously before speaking. "I've just received orders from our Supreme Council. They're not happy with the turn of events here." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" "They believe I've gone soft," Zix explained, his voice low. "They're sending a new fleet, one that won't be swayed by your methods. They plan to resume the invasion, more aggressively than before." The news hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He looked around at the scene of cooperation and friendship that had blossomed in Millbrook. "But can't you explain to them? Show them what we've achieved here?" Zix shook his head sadly. "They're not interested in explanations. In their eyes, this mission has failed. They're coming to finish what we started." As the gravity of the situation sank in, Jake's mind raced. Everything they had worked for was in jeopardy, but he refused to give up hope. "There has to be something we can do," he said, determination evident in his voice. Suddenly, Max let out a sharp bark. Jake turned to see his faithful companion sitting next to the beast, both of them looking intently at Jake and Zix. It was as if they understood the gravity of the conversation. An idea began to form in Jake's mind. It was crazy, perhaps even impossible, but it might be their only chance. "Commander," Jake said, turning back to Zix, "you said your people wouldn't be swayed by our methods, but what if we could show them something so extraordinary, so unexpected, that they'd have to reconsider?" Zix looked skeptical. "What do you have in mind?" Jake grinned. "We're going to put on a show. The biggest, most amazing demonstration of interspecies cooperation the universe has ever seen." Over the next few hours, Millbrook became a hive of activity. Humans and aliens worked together, following Jake's instructions. They set up a makeshift arena in the town square, rigged lights and sound systems, and prepared a variety of obstacles and props. As word spread about what was happening, people from neighboring towns began to arrive. Alien ships from across the region converged on Millbrook, curious about the commotion. Jake had asked Zix to broadcast the event to the incoming fleet, hoping against hope that it might make a difference. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the town, Jake stood in the center of the arena. Beside him were Max, the beast, and a motley crew of earth animals and alien creatures. The stands were packed with humans and aliens alike, all watching with bated breath. Jake took a deep breath and began to speak, his voice amplified for all to hear. "Friends, visitors, and those watching from afar, We're here today to show you something amazing, something that proves that no matter how different we may seem, we can always find common ground. With that, Jake launched into the most spectacular display of animal training the world had ever seen. But this was no ordinary show. Humans and aliens worked together, guiding Earth animals and alien creatures through complex routines. Max led the way, performing incredible feats of agility and intelligence. He weaved through obstacle courses, solved puzzles, and even seemed to communicate with the alien creatures. The beast, once a symbol of terror, now moved with grace and gentleness, playing games with children and showing an almost puppy-like enthusiasm. Alien soldiers demonstrated their own skills, showcasing abilities that left the human audience in awe. But instead of using these skills for war, they used them in harmony with the Earth animals, creating beautiful and complex displays. As the show reached its climax, Jake called for silence. In the hushed arena, he brought out a simple ball. "This," he said, holding it up, "is one of the most basic toys on Earth, but it's also one of the most powerful tools for building friendship." With that, he tossed the ball high into the air. What happened next left everyone speechless. Max leapt up, catching the ball mid-air, but instead of returning it to Jake, he passed it to an alien creature, who then tossed it to the beast. The ball continued its journey, passed from human to alien, from Earth animal to alien creature, in a dazzling display of teamwork and trust. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Humans and aliens alike were on their feet, many with tears in their eyes. Even Commander Zix looked moved, his stern features softening with emotion. As the cheers died down, a tense silence fell over the arena. All eyes turned to the sky, where the new alien fleet was due to arrive at any moment. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours. Jake stood firm, Max at his side, the beast looming protectively behind them. Humans and aliens in the crowd held hands, united in their hope for peace. Suddenly, the sky lit up. But it wasn't with the fire of weapons. Instead, a dazzling light show erupted above Millbrook, more beautiful than any fireworks display. A massive hologram appeared, showing scenes from the show they had just witnessed, broadcast for the entire world to see. A voice boomed from above, speaking in the alien language. Zix's eyes widened in shock as he translated for Jake. "The Supreme Council has witnessed your demonstration," Zix said, his voice filled with disbelief and joy. They say they've never seen anything like it in all their years of space exploration. They're calling off the invasion. They want to open diplomatic relations instead." A roar of jubilation swept through the crowd. Humans and aliens embraced, celebrating their shared victory. In that moment, the boundaries between species seemed to disappear entirely. As the celebration raged on around him, Jake knelt down and hugged Max tightly. "We did it, buddy," he whispered. "We really did it." Max wagged his tail and licked Jake's face as if to say, "Of course we did. That's what friends do." The unexpected turn of events had transformed an invasion into an opportunity for unprecedented galactic friendship. And it all started with a man and his dog, proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the simple act of kindness. 1 year had passed since the day that changed everything. The anniversary of what was now called the Millbrook Miracle dawned bright and clear. The small Midwest town had become the epicenter of a new era of interstellar cooperation and understanding. Jake woke up early, as he always did. But instead of just Max waiting eagerly for their morning walk, there was now a second, much larger figure lounging in the living room. The beast, whom Jake had affectionately named Buddy, had become a permanent part of his household. The sight of the massive alien creature curled up on a custom-made oversized dog bed, snoring softly, never failed to bring a smile to Jake's face. "Come on, you two," Jake called out. "Time for our walk." As they stepped outside, Jake marveled at how much had changed. The streets of Millbrook were bustling with activity, humans and aliens going about their daily lives side by side. Alien architecture blended seamlessly with the town's original buildings, creating a unique skyline that symbolized the union of two worlds. Their walk took them to the town square, which had been transformed into a beautiful park. At its center stood a statue depicting Max and Buddy playing with a ball, eternally capturing the moment that had turned the tide of the invasion. Around the base of the statue, written in both human and alien languages, were the words, "Friendship knows no boundaries." As they approached the park, Jake saw a familiar figure waiting for them. Commander Zix, or just Zix as he preferred to be called now, waved at them. The once fearsome alien leader had undergone a remarkable transformation over the past year. He now served as the primary liaison between Earth and the alien civilization, and had become one of Jake's closest friends. "Good morning, Jake," Zix said, his voice warm. "Ready for the big day?" Jake nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was not just the anniversary of the Millbrook miracle. It was also the day of the first official interstellar peace conference, to be held right here in Millbrook. As they walked together towards the newly constructed Interstellar Conference Center, Jake reflected on the incredible journey of the past year. The days following the Millbrook miracle had been chaotic but filled with hope. The alien invasion had been called off, replaced by a massive humanitarian and reconstruction effort. Earth's governments, once on the brink of collapse, had to quickly adapt to a new reality where they were part of a larger galactic community. The aliens, for their part, had to confront the flaws in their conquest-driven society and embrace a new way of thinking. Through it all, Millbrook had served as a model for cooperation. Jake, much to his own surprise, had found himself acting as a key advisor in the integration process. His ability to bridge the gap between species, honed through years of working with animals, proved invaluable in navigating the complex waters of interspecies relations. As they entered the conference center, Jake was struck by the diversity of the attendees. Representatives from every nation on Earth mingled with delegates from dozens of alien worlds. The main hall was a cacophony of languages, translator devices working overtime to facilitate communication. Jake made his way to the stage where he was scheduled to give the opening address. As he looked out over the sea of faces, both human and alien, he felt the weight of the moment. Max sat loyally at his feet while Buddy loomed beside him, a living symbol of the unexpected friendship that had changed the course of history. Taking a deep breath, Jake began to speak. "1 year ago, we stood on the brink of annihilation. Two civilizations, separated by vast distances of space, found themselves locked in conflict. But in our darkest hour, we discovered a universal truth, that the bonds of friendship and understanding are stronger than any weapon, more powerful than any army." As Jake spoke, he saw heads nodding, both human and alien. We learned that our differences, which we thought divided us, could actually unite us. That the very diversity we feared could become our greatest strength. He gestured to Max and Buddy. "These two taught us that lesson. A simple Earth dog and a fearsome alien beast, forming a friendship that seemed impossible. They showed us that love and trust can bridge any gap, overcome any obstacle." Jake continued, his voice growing stronger. "In the past year, we've taken the first steps on a new path. We've begun to explore the galaxy not as conquerors, but as friends. We've shared knowledge, culture, and yes, even our pets." This elicited a chuckle from the audience, as the trend of humans adopting alien creatures and aliens adopting Earth animals had become quite popular. "But our journey is far from over," Jake said, his tone becoming serious. "We still have much to learn from each other. There will be challenges ahead, misunderstandings to overcome. But I believe that as long as we hold on to the spirit of friendship and cooperation that brought us here, there's nothing we can't achieve together." As Jake concluded his speech, the hall erupted in applause. Humans and aliens alike rose to their feet, their differences forgotten in a moment of shared hope and purpose. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of meetings, discussions, and celebrations. Jake found himself in conversation with alien scientists, swapping stories about the unique behaviors of Earth animals and alien creatures. He watched with pride as Max and Buddy performed demonstrations, showing how seamlessly beings from different worlds could work together. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over Millbrook, Jake slipped away from the festivities. He walked to a quiet spot on the edge of town, Max and Buddy following close behind. From this vantage point, he could see the whole town, the conference center lights twinkling in the distance. Jake sat down on the grass, Max curling up beside him, and Buddy settling its massive form on his other side. As he scratched behind Max's ears and patted Buddy's scaly hide, Jake felt a profound sense of peace. "You know, guys," he said softly, "when I was a kid, I used to dream about adventures in space. Meeting aliens, exploring new worlds. I never imagined it would happen quite like this." Max looked up at him with those soulful eyes, while Buddy made a low, contented rumble. Jake smiled. "But I wouldn't change a thing. We've got a whole universe of friends out there now, and it's all thanks to you two." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Jake thought about the future. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt. Integrating two vastly different civilizations would not be easy, but looking at the unlikely trio they made, a human, a dog, and an alien beast, Jake knew that anything was possible. The invasion that had threatened to end humanity had instead opened up a new chapter in Earth's history. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness, a moment of understanding between different species. As Jake sat there, surrounded by his extraordinary friends and looking out over the town that had changed the universe, he felt a sense of excitement for what the future might hold. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.